Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going on a seriously fun, high-energy sensory journey into the fascinating world of natural sweet wines. We're going to explore the unique science, the extreme geographies, and the centuries-old traditions that transform a simple grape into an absolute liquid masterpiece. Okay, let's dive right into this. Just look at this. Imagine the rich, dark mahogany color of a pour like that, right? And the smell? We're talking intense aromas of candied fruits, honey, and maybe some toasted almonds just hitting your senses. We're setting the stage here for what makes these wines scientifically and culturally spectacular. Because let's be honest, this isn't just grape juice. It's the result of highly specific climatic phenomena and some very rigorous winemaking techniques.
Now, the secret to all that sweetness actually boils down to a single number, 272. You see, for a wine to even be classified as a natural sweet wine, the grape must, that freshly crushed grape juice, has to pack a massive minimum sugar content. We're talking over 272 grams per liter before the fermentation process even starts. That is a crazy concentration of natural sweetness, and it forms the baseline for everything we're going to talk about today.
So, to understand how we actually get all that sweetness into the glass, we're going on a geographical grand tasting tour across Europe. We'll uncover the natural sweetness secret, check out the sun-dried and volcanic wines of Spain, explore Germany's noble rot, look at the art of stopping in France, dive into Hungary's Tokaj tradition, and finally, wrap things up in Italy with the final pour.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the natural sweetness secret. Time to look at the actual rulebook.
So what does the European Union actually consider a quote-unquote natural sweet wine? Well, it's got to be made from at least 85% specific grape varieties, but here's the real kicker, the partial fermentation. Natural basically means the alcohol comes primarily from the grape itself. The EU actually dictates that the wine cannot exceed 18% alcohol when you drink it, and at least 8% of that absolutely must come from its own natural fermentation. No cheating allowed.
Moving on to Section 2. Spain, where the wines are sun-dried and volcanic. Time to step into the blazing heat.
This brings us to the seriously hot, sun-baked soil of the Marco de Jerez region in southern Spain. Just imagine the extremes here. They get 300 days of glorious sunshine every single year with wild temperature swings. We're talking dipping down to 4 degrees Celsius and shooting all the way up to a scorching 40 degrees. To survive this, winemakers use this really clever trick called aserpiado. They literally dig indentations, like little holes in the vineyard soil, just to trap and capture every single drop of that precious autumn and winter rain.
In this sun-drenched environment, Spain relies on a few star grape varieties. Take Pedro Ximénez, for example. That famous dark mahogany color and those soft, fruity aromas, they actually get that by drying the berries right out in the sun. It's a technique known as soleo. Then you've got Muscat of Alexandria, which loves being near the sea and gives off these amazingly intense perfumes. Oh, and Malvasia, which historically was prized as canary wine over in England. Finally, there's Monastrell, which you'll find popping up in regions like Tarragona and Priara.
But wait, the extremes get even crazier if we travel off the mainland to the Canary Islands, specifically Lanzarote. The landscape there is, well, it's pretty desolate. Those Malvasia vines survive the island's fierce winds by growing inside circular craters that are up to 2 meters deep. Winemakers literally mulch the ground with volcanic ash to grab moisture from the air and hold on to whatever tiny bit of rain they get. It's totally wild, but it's a perfect example of how extreme geography forces the sugar to concentrate in these grapes.
Okay, let's cool down a bit. Section 3, Germany and the bizarre world of the noble rot. So up north in the damp, cool river valleys of Germany's Mosel region, we run into this bizarre but totally wonderful concept called Edelfäule, or noble rot. Winemakers there actually want this fungus, but try to Cineraea, to attack their Riesling grapes. I know, it sounds gross, right? This fungal attack turns the grape skins this yellow-brownish color and totally shrivels them up. But why is this actually a good thing? Because it naturally supercharges the concentration of sweetness and flavors inside the grape before they're even harvested off those steep south-facing river terraces.
Now, because of this unique climate, Germany has 2 distinct classifications that trip people up all the time. First, you have Spätlese, which translates to late harvest. These grapes are overripe and have intense flavor, but, and this is a really key takeaway here, they aren't necessarily sweeter. On the flip side, Auslese is a super meticulous selection of very ripe bunches that have specifically been hit by that noble rot we just talked about. It's a huge difference in the glass.
Moving right along on our tour, we hit Section 4,
France and the art of stopping.
Let's travel way back to the 13th century at the Montpellier faculty. A guy named Arnaud de Villanova had this really revolutionary idea called mutage, or stopping. Think about fermentation like a car coasting down a hill, slowly converting all that natural grape sugar into alcohol. Mutage is basically like slamming on the brakes by dumping brandy or wine alcohol into the mix. That sudden massive spike in alcohol instantly kills off the yeast, which abruptly stops the fermentation and beautifully preserves all those remaining natural sugars from the grape.
Once they've stopped the fermentation, the French use some pretty drastically different aging methods. For instance, Muscats go through a really short aging process just to lock in those fresh floral aromas. But then you have White Riff Saltez. When they put these through a long oxidative aging process in half-empty barrels, they develop these crazy, surprising rancid notes. So you get honey and toasted almonds, which you'd expect, but then suddenly you're tasting green walnut, bitter orange, and literally even curry. It's wild. Meanwhile, Red Riff Saltés and Banyuls can either be bottled up super quick for fresh cassis notes or aged long-term to unlock these deep, earthy flavors like cocoa, game, and truffle.
Just as a quick visual palate cleanser, think about how these complex red sweet wines from France evolve during all that extreme aging. They start out looking like fresh dark fruits and slowly transform into what they call tasia. Tasia basically refers to this beautiful, faded brick color they take on, which perfectly matches the old red-tiled roofs of the region. Pretty cool, right?
All right, let's shift gears for Section 5, Hungary and the Tokay tradition.
Okay, making Tokay Azu from ferment grapes is just a masterclass in patience. First, the Azu grapes, the ones blessed by that noble rot, are manually harvested stage by painstaking stage. They crush them into a thick paste and let them macerate. Next, this intensely sweet paste gets mixed with a base must inside these 136-liter traditional barrels called gunchies. And then, the waiting game. They're left for this incredibly long, slow fermentation and aging process deep underground in these lava tunnels. And picture this, the walls of these tunnels are completely covered in a thick, living layer of moss. It is literally like stepping back in time.
So, how exactly do they measure the sweetness of Tokay? Well, they use this fascinating mathematical recipe called the Putney system. The base is always exactly 1 gonchi, so that's 136 liters of fresh must. The ultimate sweetness is decided by how many putnios, which are basically these little baskets of botrytized grape paste, get dumped into that barrel. To put it in perspective, a 3 putnius wine gets up to 90 kilos of that sweet paste, but a luxurious 7 putnius wine, that gets up to 210 kilos added to the exact same amount of liquid. It is just an incredible ratio of pure sweetness.
Emerging from those caves, let's make a brief final stop for Section 6, Italy, and the final pour.
You know, Italy offers this absolutely incredible regional diversity of sweet wines that we definitely can't ignore. Up north in the Piedmont region, you've got the super famous, lightly sparkling Moscato d'Asti. But then, as you travel down into the center of the peninsula, into Umbria, the game completely changes. You find these rich, incredibly complex red sweet wines like Montefalco Segrantino Passito. The sheer variety across the continent is just staggering.
So we've seen a lot today. We've seen grapes baked in volcanic craters, purposely attacked by rot, stopped dead in their tracks by a blast of alcohol, and buried alive in mossy caves. Considering that wines like Hungarian Tokay can literally sit and age for over a century, I want to leave you with this. What does this artistry of time and patience actually mean for the glass in your hand? Because when you really think about it, it's not just a beverage. It is history, it's extreme geography, and it's brilliant science, all perfectly preserved just for you.